it was announced that Tennessee's opening kickoff against Syracuse this year is at noon on the first Saturday of football season. Jordan, your initial thoughts on a noon kickoff to start the season for Tennessee?
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I mean, I like being awake and watching some noon football games, but not necessarily when Tennessee is the one playing them. But I mean, of course, I'm going to tune into the game and everything, and I'm sure it'll end up being a good one. But not really that big of a noon kickoff fan, to be honest. How about you?
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I'm not a huge fan of them. I would say my preferred kickoff time, and that's, obviously of all of them, will be the night games because who doesn't love a night game? But I would say between noon and the 3:30, I would probably go with noon because just from a fan's perspective, let's just say, you're going to a game that Saturday. If you watch it, if you're at a noon game or a night game, you can. If you're at the noon game, you can watch all the football afterward that you want to. So you'll catch probably either late first half of the 3:30 games to all the way to the end of the night slate, and that's great. Night slate, you can watch all the noon game and then maybe leave sometime in the first half of the 3:30 game, and that's good. 3:30, you have to leave sometime either just before or right after kickoff of the noon games, and you're not getting back until the second half of the night games a lot of the time. So I like to think about it that way, but I do understand why people are not a fan of noon kickoffs, and I totally get it. Like, that's just it's hard to manufacture environments, I guess you could say, although that's not really a concern here just because that game is being played in Atlanta.
Yeah, and on the flip side too, I don't know how far it is from Knoxville to Atlanta, but I think from where I'm at, it's roughly about like 5 hours or so. So if I was like trying to go to the game, I'm probably not going to stay the night before, and I'm just gonna go travel there via car. Not really a big fan of waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning or something just to go out there and prepare for the game. But I mean, it would be pretty cool too. I mean, if any Tennessee fan that does go to the game, I would recommend. I mean, I still haven't been, but to go to the College Football Hall of Fame, I mean, with a noon kickoff, you could definitely do that. Like, go to the Hall of Fame right after and make a day out of that as well, which I definitely look forward to in the future. And I'm going to be in Atlanta next week. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it or not to the College Football Hall of Fame, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, and there's a few things to do in Atlanta too. Like, I know I've said that Atlanta is not necessarily the city that I put at the top of my list of destinations to go to, but there are some cool things to do there. Like, admittedly, I don't get into soft drinks, but if you love them, go to the Coke Museum. That's your place right there. The aquarium's nice. You can go catch a Braves game. And yeah, the College Football Hall of Fame is very good too. I've been there on, I think, one occasion. That's, I believe, where SEC Media Days are this year too. Because they had them there. Was that 2022? Maybe they had them there because they had them in Nashville in 2023. But there's some cool things to do in Atlanta. And other thing too, and you mentioned the driving, Jordan. That actually works well for some people because you can just make it down and back out of it. And you said you were wondering how far it is from Knoxville. It's about 3 on the dot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I've driven down and back for a couple Braves games, actually, come to think of it. And then from Nashville, it's probably closer to 4. And then, of course, there's and this is just educated guessing here, but when you think about the alumni base outside of the state of Tennessee, Georgia is right up there with North Carolina and just random northeastern cities for the largest Tennessee alumni population, like especially the Atlanta area. There's a lot more Tennessee fans in Georgia than people realize. But yeah, it's good for them, obviously, and you can day trip that, and even from Tennessee, you can day trip it as well. So From that aspect, it is good. And, looking at this from a perspective of, let's say, a TV programmer, I was looking at the schedule for games that are supposed to be on ABC that week. And, unlike years past, it's actually pretty strong in the SEC. Like I remember 2 years ago, Virginia and Tennessee played here in Nashville, and you had like South Carolina and North Carolina playing later that night. You had nothing in between the two of them really, because Utah and Florida had played on Thursday. Well, this year you've got some good games after that, and you've got another one in Texas and Ohio State that will be terrific. I don't know when exactly that's supposed to kick off, probably sometime at night. But again, if we're looking at this from the perspective of, let's say, a TV programmer, it would appear that they are emphasizing the need for strong environments in their games. And I say that because you look at the two games afterward, not to say Florida State is necessarily going to have a strong environment after a 2-10 season, but they're hosting Alabama. Maybe you can draw some people out there for it. And then you look at the night game. You got LSU playing Clemson in Death Valley, the South Carolina version of Death Valley, not LSU Death Valley, but that should be a terrific game. Both of them should be. And I think that's what the networks are going for here. If you look at it that way, I think because last year too, in 2024, you had Georgia and Clemson playing in week 1 in Atlanta. So basically the same kind of game that Tennessee and Syracuse are playing. Two programs that have won national championships, two of them each in the last 10 years, both of which are an hour and a half away from each other, playing in Atlanta at noon because you just don't have a home environment to really get juiced up. And I think that's what ESPN is doing here, because you see it too with Auburn and Baylor kicking off on Friday night. And, from just an objective fan's perspective, that's really good. Obviously, from a Tennessee perspective, you can complain about it a little bit, but from an executive standpoint, it makes sense.
Yeah, and all those games that you mentioned too, I mean, pretty exciting. I mean, that's got to be one of the stronger opening days that I can remember in recent history. I'd be really excited for that Ohio State-Texas game. I think that could be very interesting, what the implications that could be with that. But this should be a really good day for college football overall, and be interesting to see how Tennessee ends up doing. I don't know how much research that you've done into like Tennessee's history between Syracuse, but I was doing some recently.
Well, there's one in particular that you should know about.
Oh, yeah. 1998.
Of course.
Yeah, because Tennessee, I mean, they wouldn't have went to the national championship. I mean, I had to go look back, but I mean, if Jeff Hall didn't make that kick, Tennessee would have one less national championship to their name. But I found something interesting while researching, because I saw that the first matchup was in 1966. And do you know who Syracuse running backs were during the time? No,
not Jim Brown.
No,
I guess he would have been older. Yeah, that's right. But I know that the 1998 quarterback was Donovan McNabb.
Yeah,
and then former Tennessee Titans linebacker Keith Bullock was there that season, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Yes, there's been so many good players in the matchup. Like, I was shocked doing my research. I mean, Dwight Freeney played in 2001 as well, and so did David Tyree, which everyone knows with the helmet catch. But in 1966, I was shocked to find out that Tennessee didn't just play against one Hall of Fame running back. They played against two in the same game, and they split carries. They played against Larry Zonka and Floyd Little. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they ran crazy.
That's a strong group.
Oh, yeah. And they ran crazy. I think it was 341 yards, and they were splitting it like about half and half, at least statistically. But it was very interesting to see that. And I'm surprised that Tennessee won, but apparently Dewey Warren passed for like 244, and Tennessee held Clemson at like 16 yards passing or something like that.
That's the swamp rat for you. He'll win you some games, or he at least did win you some games back in the day that we're awfully competitive. But that's why they love him. All the older fans and even some of the younger ones too. Like they know who Dewey Warren is.
Yeah, and like the fact that he threw for 244 back in like 1966, like
Yeah,
I was shocked to see
because
that.
here's the thing: pass interference did not exist until sometime in like the 80s or 90s.
Really?
Yeah, people don't realize that. So you could just go up and mug wide receivers if you're a DB. It was much harder to pass back then. Like because I saw this just reading up on like Johnny Unitas, like what he did with the Colts back in the day was so impressive because pass interference didn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If that's the case, I actually didn't know that about pass interference, but I mean, even more impressive. I mean, of course, receivers used and stick 'em back in the day too, so they
That
had a little
helps.
bit of that advantage. But very interesting, like all the players that have played in these games, and of course, Tennessee had some great players too. John Henderson was playing during the games. Jamal Lewis, Casey Clausen, the Iceman. There's so many talented players on the field, and hopefully, some of these players from this season end up leaving a legacy like that. I'm not sure if that'll end up being the case if some of these people will be as popular or as successful in the NFL from these two teams, but there's a lot more history between these two schools than just taking it on face value.
Syracuse, unfortunately, has been negatively affected by the collapse of the Big East, and or at least the old Big East, and that's not just in football. You see it with the basketball program too. Like Jim Boeheim was a dead man walking there for about 8 or 9 years. Just not a program that did very well. And I mean, you saw it this year. Tennessee just took them to the woodshed, 96-70 win at home in that SEC ACC challenge that the SEC won like 14-2. But yeah, Q's like, since they joined the ACC, they had what, 9 or 10 win season under Dino Babers, and maybe 1 or 2 other seasons where they won 6 games or so. And it's funny because we were talking the other week about the top 5 Tennessee games we've attended. Dino Babers was the head coach of Bowling Green in that game you mentioned, Jordan.
Really?
Yeah. He was only there for like a year or two as the head coach, but he had that job before he took the Syracuse job, and he was at Syracuse quite a while. Obviously, not a super productive tenure, but he was there for a minute. Was it Eric Dungy was the quarterback they had back in 2018? That was pretty nice. They beat West Virginia in like a Citrus Bowl or something that season. Anyway, that's Syracuse recently, and of course Fran Brown, who they hired last year. Would they win 10 games last season? He's delivering all the champagne to Ryan Day because he let Kyle McCord go to Syracuse. He was not delivering him the champagne after that Pittsburgh game. I can tell you that. And that's going to be, and we'll talk about this a lot more as the game gets closer, but the quarterback position for both teams is an area that neither team really knows what it has there right now. Obviously, Tennessee's juggling between 3 guys. Syracuse, I think, has 1 or 2 guys that are looking like they could be starters, one of which was Steve Angeli, who Tennessee was, or I don't know if Tennessee was ever actually eyeing them. Tennessee fans on the social networks were eyeing him when he entered the portal because he was the first spring window quarterback to hit the portal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting game to say the least. Yeah, and then I don't know, like the quarterback situation. I mean, yeah, it's going to be up in the air for sure. But I guess when the game comes around, both teams are going to have a lot more answers. But it's going to be hard, I would imagine, for Syracuse losing the FBS leader in passing and Kyle McCord. I'm not sure how great of a coach Fran Brown has been for quarterbacks and stuff, but I would imagine it'd be hard to replace someone like that after one season. But I mean, you could say the same for Tennessee in the situation that they're in. I mean, even though Nico didn't have the best year, still a former 5-star recruit and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of questions that will be answered on that day.
Yeah, so we know that Josh Heupel can work well with quarterbacks. We've seen it not just here at Tennessee, but in other places too. He had Mackenzie Milton when he was down there at UCF. Drew Lock when he was at Mizzou. So he's had some productive quarterbacks in the past. Here's one because I saw somebody, I think maybe Grant Ramey put it out the other day on Twitter. But he worked with Chucky Keaton at Utah State. Do you remember Chucky Keaton?
Yes,
Jordan?
I do remember
Yeah.
Chucky Keaton. I didn't even know he was at Utah State.
Because I think there was maybe some injury history there with Chucky Keaton, but like I remember watching them play. I think Auburn the year
Auburn,
after
yeah,
they won
beat
the national
Auburn.
championship. They didn't beat Auburn, but they played them close. I want to say it was like a 4-point game. So yeah, he's got some history with quarterbacks. Fran Brown, which is the other side of this. This is only his second year as Syracuse's head coach, and he's been a defensive guy and not even a coordinator, just like a position coach. So, I don't know what they've got at who they've got as their offensive coordinator, but it better be strong because I just don't know much with Fran Brown other than the fact that he knows the recruiting wells up in the Northeast because I think he had successfully recruited a lot of people to Temple when he was there or something and got some out of the Northeast when he was at Georgia. Not that Georgia needs any recruits from the Northeast because they've got tons in their own backyard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Georgia's one of the best Southern states when it comes to high school recruits, or at least in my opinion. Tennessee's had a lot of talented players come out of Georgia too, like Eric Berry. I think Jamal Lewis was from Georgia as well.
The list goes on and on. Yeah, Georgia and North Carolina are probably the two, and then Alabama too. The three non-Tennessee states that Tennessee likes to recruit the hardest, I would say, just because Florida factors in there somewhat, and so does Virginia. But like you don't usually see Tennessee recruiting a whole lot out of Texas, and it does sparingly from both Texas and California because some of the best quarterbacks Tennessee has had post Peyton Manning have been California kids.
Yeah, like Tyler Bray and everything.
Casey Clausen.
Oh, Casey Clausen. I actually didn't know that he was from California.